Cheers and welcome to On Tap Brewers, the show that takes you behind the scenes of the craft beer industry. Today we're hanging out with David with the Fresh Hop Ale Festival. Thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Good to be here.
Appreciate your time. It's the first time that we're doing it in our podcast space, so it's a totally different space here. So if we're not at a brewery, this is where we'll be at doing our show. How about you just kind of introduce yourself and kind of talk about what you do at the festival?
Yeah, definitely. Like Brock said, my name is David Paulson. I've been with Fresh Hop Ale Festival since probably about 2012 when I first came back to Yakima. I have been a volunteer for the past, 6 years now, slowly working my way up now. I'm a board member and the committee chair for volunteers as day of the festival.
Cool. So you're in charge of just getting all
I've
volunteers
gotten as involved as
places.
I possibly can in this festival.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool. So just kind of looking at the festival, you guys are rated one of the, top 10 festivals in the nation, actually, is what we've gathered.
Yes.
Could you speak to maybe why that is? It's crazy that just a festival in little Yakima is considered
Little
that.
old Yakima.
Right, yeah.
There's so many amazing things that come from Yakima that people have no idea. Just like that little tiny lock that goes on your bread.
Yeah,
Have you
there's
seen those?
the quick lock.
That was invented here.
Right, yeah.
People have no idea that so many things that they use on a daily basis come from Yakima. But why is this festival so great? Fresh Hops, to people that love hops, is just an incredible time of the year. Mm-hmm. I know about 2 years ago, I was actually out at YCH at one of the farms for their hop and brew school, and there was two guys that had driven up from, I think it was Tempe, Arizona, just to witness the hop harvest.
Yeah.
And it's humbling when you're here in Yakima to realize just how kind of lucky we are that we pass by these roads all the time. But it's a very special thing. I mean, Yakima in the Northwest grows about 35 to 40% of the world supply of hops, about 75-ish% or more of the American supply of hops. Mm-hmm. So it's a very special place. Fresh hop beers are a very unique style in the fact that they're only seasonal. Mm-hmm. They don't hold up well. Right. There's a few breweries that are out there that are trying to experiment with, what can we call a fresh hop ale and make it available all year. But that's still not one of the beers that, when you're at the festival itself, that specific unique beer that sometimes there's only a few kegs of,
Right.
Just has this flavor that it's like when you see hops, like if you've ever held them in your hand and just given them a big whiff, that's what the beer tastes like.
Right. You don't get that with like a pellet.
You don't get that. You just don't get the same thing with pellets.
Right.
It's a completely different method of brewing.
Yeah, I've been going personally to the Fresh Hop for a few years, and it is cool. Just like every beer is like either a collaboration beer that just won't be around,
Yep.
and they won't do it again. And to me, spirit-wise, that's just really rad.
It even depends sometimes on when you get, very, very specifically, you can really get different flavors out of different hops, especially in the wet hops. Mm-hmm. We've done some where we've just wet hopped kind of a finished beer already, and it's incredible when you take the same base and just run different hops through it, how wildly different they are. Mm-hmm. There's just so many things you can do with them. And I swear it's like catnip. Harvest rolls around and you're kind of, exhausted from the year, or you've got a year and a half year old son, new brewery, all these things happening, new job, and harvest was kind of this like, oh my gosh, I just am not in that harvest excitement yet. And when I drank our first fresh hop beer the other day, it just absolutely like hit me in the face. It reminded me, it's like, oh yeah,
this is the cool thing. Yeah,
this is why I love this moment.
Right. Yeah. So for somebody that hasn't ever gone to Fresh Hop Ale Festival, like, how would you describe it to them, and why should they make the trip if they're
and I mean
local?
this plays into that first question. I think I kind of skirted around it but never totally answered it.
Yeah.
There's only a few places in the world that you can have a festival like this.
Right.
Very few breweries have access to, or readily have access to it. There's some larger ones. I think Surly up in the Midwest will ship trucks overnight. Sierra Nevada, same thing. They'll ship trucks, and they have the trucks head down. They have it all planned, so when the trucks get there, the brew is timed just right, so those hops actually go in there. But that's a really complicated and expensive thing to do.
Right.
We live, out in Sunnyside. We've got our brewery, and within 15 minutes, they can go from field to the kettle. So you have this limited geographical region, and the Northwest is awesome for that. And having this festival in the heart of hop country just adds to the excitement. But what was the second part again? So
just
expectations of what?
Yeah, like what do they expect? I mean, you're doing live music, you're doing all kinds of stuff.
We've got live music,
Yeah.
but I would say specifically this is not a music festival.
Right.
We've been talking a lot about this. Music was kind of growing and being a bigger part, but it's like, wait. What's the focus? This festival, as long as we're kind of at the helm, beer will always be first.
Right.
Fresh hops specifically. There's music. There's food vendors. You definitely have to eat food when
Gotta
you're
eat
drinking
food,
these double IPA fresh
Right.
hop beers.
Right.
There's food. There's music. There's enough space to mingle with friends. But ideally, you're just kind of in line most of the time, trying to find. We've got 50 plus breweries this year.
Right.
If each one has 2 fresh hops, drink wisely. It's one of the reasons why
Can't taste them
we've
all.
shrunk our glass down to I forget how many ounces it is. Maybe like a 6-ounce pour now.
Okay.
We're not going with the little tiny glasses because one of the things that we've been famous for is we've used to have full pints.
See, that's where I screwed up my first year. Is I was like,
Oh,
I'll take a pint of
man.
that, and then you do that, a few
Yeah.
times, and you're like, oh wait, I can't.
Yeah, no. If you think
can't.
about it, even if you wanted to try a quarter of the beers, that's still 10 full pints. If we were doing
Right.
or 10 half pints.
Yeah.
It's not a very sustainable
It's
path.
something I didn't even consider when
Yep.
I was,
Yep.
waiting in lines.
And we have 6 hours.
Right. Yeah. You got a lot of time to do
You
it.
have a lot of time.
Right.
There's no rush. It's a great time. Bring a lawn chair, relax, eat some food.
So you can bring in lawn chairs.
You can bring in lawn chairs.
Okay, that's cool.
And this new location might actually be a great time to talk about that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you guys are in
This
a
new
new
location.
spot.
Yeah, we've got over. Oh man, I think it even got revised. The number on the top of my head is 20,000 more square feet. But so we've moved maybe 4 blocks down the road to a giant parking lot. So we moved from one parking lot to another. But after having worked the festival and so being in charge of all the different volunteers, I'm constantly jumping back and forth from one side to the other. And it's dark, it's not well lit, and you've got curbs and you've got sidewalks and there's always this one sprinkler that's broken, and so it's always this muddy mess that you trip and fall if you ever walk through it. And I've been amazed that nobody's ever broken a leg
Yeah.
or sprained an ankle or just done something. So we've been lucky, but I'm excited for this biggest reason is that the whole parking lot that we're going to be is just this loop, and
It's
it'll
brand
all
new
be
too.
flat.
Yeah, it's brand new too.
Brand
It's
new.
only been
It'll-
there for a few years.
Yep.
Really.
So we've got much more space. The layout is going to be amazing. Before, we've always had this struggle of like, how do we fit all the breweries? Where do we put all the food?
Yeah, it's always
not
been
have
different, too.
lines like back up. Last year, we ended up with too many breweries in just because of a kind of a mix up on our part, on the board's part.
Yeah.
And so the layout ended up to be where half of the group had to face away from everybody, and their lines were restricted. And of course, you have breweries that are going, I'm not getting as much exposure. And so this year, all things equal, we're just going to be all in one giant row. The line will just be able to evenly spread out. There won't be this who's on what side, and does the L shape, does my line run into the other person's line?
Right.
Last year I called it line plinko. You joined what you thought was a line, but you might actually end up
And
4
that
breweries
one over there. Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's easy to do
Just-
when there's that many people in
yeah,
such a
it was
tight
just
space.
this conglomerated mess.
Right.
So it will be much more easier run. We'll have more space. There'll be better gates.
Cool.
It'll be nice. There'll be still the good parking.
Yeah.
You won't have to walk more than a couple
Is,
blocks.
is the layout something that you could talk about since this will air before the
yeah. You'll walk in coming off of
Yakima Ave?
Yakima Avenue,
Uh-huh.
and North First, I believe, is going to be closed. This is all where Megan knows the layout better than I do. But you'll have that main entrance there, and as soon as you come in, just off to the left, all the breweries will be lined up there. There'll be other volunteer entrances on the side, and there'll be a VIP entrance in the back. And so the VIP will be in the back section, and they'll have their own entrance, so there's not that mingling. lines are already bad enough sometimes, but we do a good job. Lines can be long. I think I will always remind people that when you see the line, everybody complains that, oh my gosh, the line is so long. But as a volunteer coordinator, one of the things that I would do is I'd go, try to make sure all our volunteers were placed. And as people were coming through, I would ask them, like, how long did you wait? And they're like, oh, like maybe 15 minutes.
Right, yeah.
Which, for beer festivals this size, is great.
Yeah.
We move through people pretty quickly.
Right. And the whole ticket, here's a ticket, I'll take that.
Yep. And so there will be some music over on the opposite side, away from the breweries. And I should mention this. We have the most porta-johns that we've ever had.
Awesome.
In the life of the festival.
That's good.
Yes, we drink a lot of beer, and
right.
we all know what happens.
A lot of bathroom breaks in between them.
And last year there was a huge bank of porta-johns that were unused. They were sitting in the corner, nobody knew about, but everybody was lined up. But this year they'll all be great. Volunteers even have their own bathroom. Little things that you don't really think about until
Until it's
you're in the middle of the festival.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
You have all your volunteers trying to wait in the line. Let's see. What else? Layout. It's going to be pretty straightforward. It's just going to be a kind of an oval. We'll have an info booth right in the center. The brewery's lined up. The food will be over on the far right side, kind of on the opposite, along with the music. Plenty of space for chairs. Come, relax. You got 6 hours to have fun.
Yeah. So with the breweries, you also kind of support home brewers and stuff as well?
We do.
Yeah.
There's
so
a home brewer competition.
What's that like? And are they in a different area? Are they just amongst the breweries?
I don't know where our home brewer booth will be.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
This year. I'm not that intimate with the layout.
Yeah.
But there will be a homebrew booth there. And then...
Is there any distincting things we can look for? Because I've gone to it a few times.
I was going to say, you're a member of the homebrew club.
Right, yeah. Well, I actually haven't made it to many of their things, but
yeah,
they. I just wasn't aware that homebrew were entered. So it was kind of surprising to me to hear that.
I think they did a... was it last year or 2 years before? I may not have actually been able to try it last year. 2 years before, I think, they used Birchman's system. And what was that? Was that maybe a New Mexicanus hop that they used? I forget. But it was I won't want to say surprisingly good, but it was, considering it was homebrew, it was delicious.
Yeah.
So they did a great job.
That's awesome.
Always a fun one. Definitely go try.
So VIP, I mean, that's one thing that you hear. What are the perks for doing the VIP? How do you get in it? We looked at the website; it's sold out, so it's something worth doing.
VIP is kind of a unique situation to this beer festival. We focus this festival a lot, sure, on the beer, but there's also the second component of the grants that we allocate at the end of the year on the profits that we distribute. And a lot of that really is made possible by VIP and sponsors. Okay. But with VIP, you get 1 hour early admission, which that's probably one of the things that I would say is the most beneficial. Yeah. My gosh, if you really absolutely must drink the Holy Mountain fresh hop that has a line by the time it's 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, that's 40 people deep.
Yeah.
More power to you. If you really want to try it and not have to wait for 30 minutes, get a VIP ticket and you can be there as soon as the festival opens. You can beeline straight towards it.
Definitely get it.
So there's a benefit there.
It's funny, lines are really, it's like culturally when you go to that festival, it's like, hey, what's the biggest line? What's everybody's drinking? Yeah. We all got to get in that line. It almost becomes the game of chasing the bigger line, which is just so weird when you think about it. But
if I could, I would love to experiment with this. If I could just get a bunch of friends to start off the night in front of Bridal at hey, everybody, just make a giant line and see if we can garner enough. Like, whoa, what is that? Like that, it must be good.
Right, exactly. And that is
one of the cool things about this festival too, is that the largest line doesn't always mean it's the best beer. My gosh, I remember when Wander from Bellingham, it was one of their first years there. Nobody had any idea who they were. I think that was one of my second years pouring beer just as a general volunteer. Met this awesome couple, and it's like, I've never heard of the brand before, but I got to taste their beer, and I was like, wow, this beer is really, really good. And I think they didn't make it into the final award, but I think they made it all the way through to like the last final round or something. They were very close. And there was no line almost all night, because who's this new brewery? We have no idea. Bellingham was still kind of becoming a thing.
Yeah.
So always, that goes into the just like what to expect. Don't be afraid to just find some new brewery and be like, let me try this.
Right.
You have no idea what to expect. Fresh hops are weird sometimes. Sometimes they come out, sometimes they don't. It doesn't matter if you've been brewing for 20 years. You still only have 20 seasons of fresh hops underneath your belt, and you have 9 or 10 or 11 months out of the year to forget what you did last year.
Right.
So mistakes happen, and sometimes hops are just weird. I've had some great breweries put out some mediocre fresh hops, and some no names produce really good beer. So, yeah.
You talked about proceeds and such.
Well,
And that goes back to
there's
the
a few more
community.
things with the VIP. I guess I should mention. You get
yeah.
food.
Yeah.
We have catered food that comes in. You have often a place to sit. We have some games that are available. So it's kind of an intimate group. Plus, there's also some of the top breweries from last year are invited to pour in VIP.
Oh, okay.
So there's usually less lines. It makes for kind of a just a little bit more intimate environment compared to the kind of the mass craziness that can be the general area.
Right. And you have a place to get away
Yep.
and to sit.
Just sit and,
Which
and
is
take a
huge.
break.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's more designs, or not designs. There's kind of more of a comfortable layout than bring your own chair.
Right. Big round
But
tables.
depends on what you're after.
Right. Yeah. Cool. So VIP proceeds. So we were reading. Do you?
Yeah, I think this is our 5th or 6th year that we've had the grant process going. Last few years, we've been able to give out over $100,000, which is no small feat for
Yeah.
a small festival like this. I mean, it may be rated one of the top 10, but we're still pretty small.
Right.
I mean, compared to the sprawling GABF and whatnot, we're very small. So for us to turn around and give $100,000 back to the community is pretty cool. And that goes to everybody from there's classrooms that get art supplies and different projects. There's the railway museum down in Toppenish that gets funding. I mean, it's so diverse. I'm not a part of the grant committee. I just had too many things going this year. I hope to be able to be part of it, because this is something that I'm fascinated about too. It's very broad and very diverse. Who gets the different? What is it? Makerspace gets some funding.
Oh, really? That's cool.
The Seasons gets funding, but primarily it's meant to focus on arts and sciences, and specifically to the youth.
Gotcha.
But
That's cool. And that's all just for Yakima.
primarily just for Yakima,
Yeah,
the Yakima
that's cool.
Yakima area.
Yeah.
I mean, Toppenish is a little bit out of the area,
Right.
but
Yeah.
yep,
Very cool.
we're all Yakima.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, you directly oversee the volunteer side of things, and I've always been curious in the volunteer aspect. I mean, you walk up to a booth and it's volunteers pouring the beers and such. Oftentimes.
Yeah.
And I always thought that's rad. What are the perks? What's the process for getting signed up to do that? How
The process is really, really easy.
Yeah.
It's even got even more simpler in the last few years. One of the things that got to me was when I was first volunteering. The festival was just, there was a lot of different changes. There were things that you could complain about, and I went to the point of, well, here's the benefit of being a volunteer. This is a festival that if you care about, you can change. There's room for you to make a difference. When I was first pouring, we had challenges. We had things that maybe weren't that great about the festival, and I wanted to make a difference. So I was able to, just attend the meetings for the volunteers, and so I got to know more about the process and give input of what's it like to be on the front line, essentially, and how do some of these other decisions affect the different volunteers. And then that moved into me being the volunteer committee chair, and now that's even moved into there was a board position open, and was able to make a difference there. So still volunteering. There's different facets all through the organization that you can volunteer through. But we have on our website, we have a link, just, volunteer. There's all the different buy tickets, volunteer, etc. Take that, click on that, and it'll open up to a website called signup.com. And it has, oh my gosh, probably the 50 different positions that we have open. Everything from Thursday, we're hosting the golf tournament down at Apple Tree for the Brewers, which we still have spots open. Well, by the time this airs, I don't know if it'll still be, but yeah, we have 30 spots open for teams. We need volunteers for that on Thursday. We are setting up Friday night in the parking lot, and then Saturday morning we continue setup, and then we have all the festival volunteers day of, pouring, script, sales, oh my gosh, gates. The list is long. Almost 600 people this year will be needed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I will never turn down a volunteer.
Yeah.
Even if you don't register and just come up to me day of and say, I want to volunteer, I will slap a volunteer shirt on you and put you to work.
Gotcha. Is it like an all day volunteer thing?
Nope. So it's a 3-hour shift.
Okay.
It's a 3-hour shift. I'm often amazed that I have some volunteers that'll just stay. You know what? I'm having so much fun. I'm just going to keep volunteering. And so they'll work through a shift or both shifts, or they'll set up and pour or you know, any mix of the two. But you get a free T-shirt, a volunteer edition T-shirt. You get a pint glass with 4 script, so four pours, and free admission to the festival. You work 3 hours. It's a great deal. I'll give everybody my second shift spiel. Is if you work second shift, you still get to come in and enjoy the festival in the first few hours. Eat some food, recover, but you get to early access. So same as VIP treatment, essentially.
Oh, okay.
But then you can come in and do any number of different jobs and still enjoy the festival. And while everybody else is drinking to a point of potential excess, where we hope they utilize Uber on their way home, you are actually sobering up and can drive home. And you're going, oh my gosh, I'm going to have so much less of a hangover as everybody else. So
those are good reasons for second shift.
I always push second shift, but it's the hardest shift to fill.
Yeah.
So we still have, I think, 50 some people that could pour Saturday at the end if they're interested.
Gotcha. Very cool. Sweet. So good on volunteer. And I think the second shift almost is the better shift, which is kind of funny when you explain it like that.
It really is. I absolutely love it. I hate crowds. I don't want to wait in lines. If you volunteer first shift and you get off second shift, you're gonna hit peak lines.
Do most festivals cover the pouring for the brewery?
They do. They do. This is a really unique festival in the fact that we want brewers to come here and have as much fun as possible as well.
Right.
Often it's brewers or brewery workers that are or sales managers or any mix of the few that are the ones actually pouring the beer. They don't actually get to drink and they actually don't get to relax and see each other. So this is a good time where we try to let the brewers kind of have their own reunion, essentially, enjoy fresh hops and remember why they're doing what they do.
Are there only so many like spots for breweries to come in, and like you said, you had issues with crowding, so clearly not everybody that wants to come.
No, there's a waiting list,
yeah.
And we've pushed a few breweries off before over some I don't know if you want to call it faux pas or just mistakes that have been made. So kind of it's a punishing thing if you get removed from the list.
Yeah. Do you know how far out the breweries go? I mean,
I don't.
Yeah.
The breweries that are there always have precedence.
Yeah.
So we're not going to take some of the fringe and kind of rotate through. We've talked about different ways that we could try to be more inclusive, but for the most part, outside of us moving to a new space and having more room,
right.
It just was, hey, these guys have been with us for the entire time,
right,
or the last 10 years.
Right.
They take precedence, and then local. We always support local. If you have new breweries that are coming in that are local that brew good beer and want to be a part of this, then they take precedence as well,
right,
over somebody that's maybe coming from Colorado or who knows where.
Gotcha. Cool. So kind of just in wrapping, I kind of had an idea like what would be some tips for someone going to the festival, kind of knowing what you know. You also said don't just because it's a big line honestly doesn't mean it's the most popular or the best beer. Do you have any like if you come, this is what I would recommend, these are the things that I would bring a chair. I didn't even think about bringing a chair. I didn't think you could bring a chair.
Yeah,
So
right.
that might be something that I definitely do, because by the end of the night, you're like leaning.
You ever seen those chairs where they're like standing chairs?
Oh yeah, they kind of just
It's
collapse
just like a
out.
pole and
Yeah.
you just kind of like lean on it. That wouldn't be too bad of it. You wouldn't have to give up your spot in line.
And they make hiking chairs too.
My gosh, one of the best things, drink water.
Yeah.
Fresh hot beers are notoriously delicious, but they're also notoriously high ABV. And you don't realize how quick the 6 hours goes. And we want everybody to get home safe. We want everybody to have a good time and come back next year and not have terrible memories Sunday morning. And for the volunteers that are going to help us clean up the next day, we want them to be capable of waking up in the morning.
Of doing that. So that's something you can sign up for too. Is
That's something
the day
else you
after.
can sign up for, is clean up after. We all look kind of half dazed, just not necessarily from the alcohol, just
It's 1,000-yard
it's a
stare
long
from the
day.
event.
Yep, yep.
That's funny.
Yeah, drink water, bring a chair. Look for breweries that you don't necessarily even know who they are, and look for talk to people. Say, hey, have you had, what's good out there? Kind of work the crowd a little bit. Meander around, get the feel for the space. I don't know, there's not too many tips other than my favorite one that I like to talk about is volunteering.
Yeah.
You still get 3 hours to enjoy yourself, and you finish the day going, you're part of that whole process that gave those grants away at the end of the day. So you even get to drink, feel good at day of the festival, but then you wake up the next day and go, oh man, I actually did something for my community as well. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, just a tip that I, think of is in going in past years is, use the least amount of scripts as you can and explore as much as you can, and don't think in pints when you go. Think in, the taster, and you've made the glass smaller.
Yeah,
so.
we've made the glass smaller.
Right.
Something else that you could do is go with friends. This is something that that I like doing is there's alcohol in it. Like your lips aren't gonna fall off if you share glasses.
Right.
You go there, I'll go here, and we'll get to try these different beers.
Yeah, that's a good way of doing it too.
I like to kind of go through and taste as much as possible, and then find a couple that I really like, and then just go get a full pint, go sit somewhere.
Take
and
some
just
notes, because you
enjoy.
might forget as you go.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Cool. Well, David, thanks for being on the show, man.
Cool.
This is super fun. I appreciate you kind of coming out and talking to us about what you got going on.
Yeah.
The festival is coming up. It is literally just about a week away, October 5th. So if you don't have tickets or you are thinking about volunteering, you should go there. Where can they follow you at? On Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, we're on social media, Instagram, Facebook, kind of all of the above.
Cool.
We'll be around.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Oh wait, we should.
Cheers.
Cheers.
That's a better way to do it.